Hey guys, Keith here. Appreciate y'all tuning in today. We'll talk about dating after the loss of a spouse. Okay, um, it's a challenge. It really is, and that's probably why I haven't done it. it's Part of the challenge is I just haven't asked anybody. I've come close though. I've come close to asking a few people, and I say a few, two or three. That I kind of got close to asking, and I just didn't do it. For some reason there would be something that I get that little hint, and I'm like, no, they don't want to go. And I was pretty sure it was going to be a no. So I was like, well, why, you know, why embarrass them and you know or what not embarrass them, but why put them on the spot? Why waste my time, kind of thing. And maybe I should have just asked anyway. But I know one lady I was going to ask, and we were talking about a certain day we was going to do something, and she kind of let it be known she didn't really like uh, what was going on that day. And she wasn't into that, and she knew I was, but she and she kind of made it clear, like, okay, she didn't, she kind of, I think she kind of knew that I was inching that way, and you want to go out, kind of thing. And so she shut me down a little bit there, or I felt like it, I could, picked up the signs there, and so I just didn't do it. But it's a challenge in a couple ways. One thing, just losing a spouse and having to start all over again is a big thing, especially if you've been married a few years, and it doesn't matter. I don't think it matters if you've been married 1 year or 20 years, but I think the longer you've been married, the harder it is for sure. And then age has a little bit to do with it. Now, just because we're older doesn't mean we don't have the same kind of feelings and all that. We still have the same emotions, the same desires, the same, for love and for companionship and all that. But we are, in a different place in our life than we were 20 years ago or 30 years ago as well. So that comes into play there, right? So two misconceptions about dating, I believe, are, first of all, one is people feel maybe a little bit like they're cheating, on their spouse if they were to look at another woman or look at another guy or ask them out. It feels weird because you still feel married. It's not like you went to, a courtroom and a judge issued you both a divorce. You said, I hate your guts. And she said, I hate your guts. And you went your separate ways, and you split everything down the middle or whatever. And that kind of thing. So, and I know not all divorces maybe end that way, but most of them are not. They're not a lot of happy divorces, probably. You know what I mean? So, uh, but when someone dies, probably some of the last words you said was "I love you." I'm gonna miss you. Oh my gosh, you're just crying. Please don't leave. Whatever. And so, it's just you're in a different place because you're still, in love with that person. You still want to be with that person, but it's not possible now. They're not here. But you still, in your heart and your mind, you still feel married. Like I say, you still have the marriage certificate. There's no papers that say you're not married, right? But that just those vows till death to do us part. And so you feel a little bit weird about taking your ring off maybe and like I say, starting to get out and scout around for the opposite sex or whoever same sex, whatever it is you're into. But either way, you're it may feel weird to you because they just are they were here one day and now they're gone, and so you feel like you're cheating a little bit. Well, you're not cheating. Like I say, that till death do us part. Once one of you takes your last breath, that's it. You know, and I'm not trying to be cold about it. I'm just stating the facts. I'm gonna be honest with you, always on this channel, and I'm gonna lay it out, in black and white best I can. But that's just the way it is. And so you have to, at that point, you make a decision. Okay, well, I don't ever want to date again because it's one and done, and I'll never find anybody like her or him again. Nobody else is going to make me feel that way or whatever. And I just don't want to even think about it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to do it. And that's fine if you don't want to. Or you may just be because of your age, over I'm 60 now, being over 50 and all that, over 40, whatever it might be, you're like, I don't want to do this again. I don't want to go through this again. Maybe you don't want to take a chance and that person pass away, and go through all that again. Sometimes that happens even with animals. My mom and dad had lost a dog here. They've always had a dog, but they had one that just died. It was very one of the few dogs that they bought. Most of their dogs was give to them or they got here. And they didn't spend a whole lot of money for them if they did at all. And this one they spent a pretty good amount of money, and it didn't live very long. And they were so close to that dog, and they went, I don't know, 2-3 years without one. And I kept saying, hey, you need to get a dog, but they just didn't want to talk about it. Or my mom didn't, especially. She said, I don't want to go through that again, And so people get that way with people, and I don't want to deal with that again. And then the other thing is, I think just, going through all of the emotional things you have to go through, the dating and the courting, getting to know each other, and what am I going to do? I like this or that, or what are they going to like to eat, and where are we going to go, and what are we going to do, and just going through all that stage of courting again. Maybe you just don't want to deal with that, and it can be challenging there. So, and you may just not want to do it. But if you want to do it, don't feel like you're cheating because you're not. Okay, get out, put yourself out there. I'm not saying get on a dating app. I'm not into those things as much. I'm not, saying, hey, don't do that. It's up to you on that. I can't, I've heard some horror stories about it, but, there are horror stories about people that met in high school too. So it's not always that everybody on a dating app is out to get you kind of thing. But it's just, you don't know them. I think it is better if you can meet somebody and kind of maybe get to know them before you date them, if possible, if you're in a setting like that. And sometimes it's hard to get in a setting like that, but if you're in a group or church or, you're in something where you kind of can get to know that person a little bit better before maybe going on a date. And sometimes you have to go on a date to get to know them, and that's cool too. I had my wife and I, we didn't know each other. We met on a Thursday. I was working in this area. I lived in Tennessee. She lived here in Virginia. And, I showed up on a Thursday. I met her. We spoke. That was it, And I didn't see her again. I saw her again like it's Friday. And we, kind of made eyes and each other. And we went out Saturday, And we had a great time. Talked a lot and just had a good time. But anyway, but don't feel like that, because, your spouse is gone, that you're letting them down or you're stepping out on them. You're not doing that, okay? And I know it may feel that way just because, like I say, of how things go in your mind. You're still married, but it's perfectly legal. It's and you can't worry about what they would think. They might some people would be like, hey, you need to go out and if something happens to me, I want you to keep dating. I want you to go out and have fun. Other people are like, you better not find anybody. I'll come back and haunt you. But no matter what they were like, you got to do what is best for you. Okay, you're not cheating. Second misconception, I believe, about dating after the loss of a spouse is the, what's the time frame? What's considered okay? And there's really not a time frame, because again, till death do us part. Once they pass away, you're a free agent. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, you're my nose is running. I don't have a Kleenex here, but anyway, I'm not crying. I'm just it's cold down here, I guess. But you're kind of in that state of losing them and trying to like figure out what do I do, what do I do next, and you're not, as far as a time frame, there's not really a time frame there. It's like I didn't really think about dating. My wife was sick. She was sick for 11 years, and then she's been gone 5. So, I had some time, and the first, when she got diagnosed, she had stage 4 cancer, and the first treatments were rough on her. She lost a lot of weight. She looked, just a totally different person. She acted different. She was scared of everything. She got depressed, and it looked bleak the first year. But I didn't think about dating at that time. I don't think I did. I'm pretty sure I didn't. I don't think I thought about dating really until she passed, or maybe even we knew. The doctors told us that she had a few months, and so I don't know. There might have been a week or two before she passed, or a few weeks. I don't know that. I'm going. A lot of things are going through my mind. You're thinking about finances. You're thinking about, funeral home. You're thinking about, hospice. You're thinking all the just tons of things. What are we going to do with their stuff? What do we got? A lot of things are going on in your mind. You're trying to figure things out, and dating was down the list. Of course. But once she was gone, it entered my mind. I'm 50 some years old, 55 years old. So, but we feel like, I think that there's a time frame, and a lot of times, more so than us, maybe family members, usually the spouse's family members or their friends, have maybe an idea in mind of how long you should wait, but there's no time limit there. There's really not. Now, I think that you should be sure. I don't think you should go out the first week, maybe and date. But I can't say that I say you shouldn't. See, here I am putting the time. It doesn't matter. For me, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to go on a date the first week. Now, did I want to talk to somebody? Yeah, sure. I would have been nice to have somebody to talk to, man or woman, either one. But I didn't want to go on a date, and so, but there's not a time frame. I mean, and I think I may have said this before in a video, but you could meet somebody at the funeral, and you hadn't seen in a long time, and they're single and you're single, and go out and have coffee, and you never know. And that may sound like, oh, that's horrible, that's disrespectful, but it is what it is. I mean, you're no longer married. And is there a mourning period? Yes, but how long is that? How long does that last? Nobody has a time frame on that. There's nothing biblical that tells us. There's no books that says you got to wait. I mean, there are probably somebody wrote one that says that, but there legally, morally, there's nothing wrong with it. And you don't have to wait 6 months or 6 years or whatever to go out on a date. You need to go when you're ready to go. Don't go before that. Don't just jump into something and go, I'm lonely, I need somebody. Don't just do that. Be sure you want to go with that person and hang out with that person. And if you're just going out with friends, well, it doesn't matter. You get to go out and get to know them and stuff like that. But if you have other intentions, you kind of want to be sure, and you're not just like, I guess you'd say, on the rebound, sort of, that you're just lonely and you just want somebody. And I think some people do that. They just jump back into marriage again because they don't want to be alone. And I don't know that that's the best thing. And I'm not saying those don't work out. They may work out a lot of times. But, for me, I didn't want to do that. And I'm 5 years and I haven't been on a date, So anyway, but I'm not against it, and you shouldn't be either. So anyway, I wanted to, get those things out there today, and just let you know that, listen, don't let, that loss of a spouse keep you from living your life. And if you don't want to be with somebody, then that's fine. Don't be with somebody. If you want to live alone, great. If you want to date. If you want to, don't want to be in a committed relationship, and you just want to go out once in a while with this person, maybe this person, and you want to, I hate to say play the field, but sort of like that, but just not have a steady girlfriend or boyfriend. Hey, do that. Do what makes you happy and what makes you feel good. And God bless you. And if you're watching this and you've lost a spouse, I'm sorry for your loss. And trust me, my prayers are with you. And I know where you're at today, and I understand totally. So anyway, I appreciate y'all tuning in as always. If you could give us a thumbs up on this, subscribe to us if you would, and we will see y'all in the next video. Thanks.